the New York Times finally now, almost a week after their terrible reporting on that alleged hospital bombing, which they said, quote, was an Israeli strike that killed hundreds in hospital, none of which was true. It wasn't an Israeli strike. It didn't kill hundreds, and it wasn't in the hospital. And they kept restating these errors over and over in their third attempts at this headline. Then they let it sit there. They finally corrected the headline, but they let the error sit there without being acknowledged. And as you guys know, in journalism, it's not enough to just correct it. You have to say, the earlier reporting was wrong. Here's how we were wrong. We regret the error. That's how you call attention to your mistakes, which everyone makes. And it's sadly a reality of our business. But this one's a huge one. It was a huge one that helped lead to riots in the streets and a swell of anti-Israel sentiment. Now they have an editor's note saying our initial accounts attributed the claim of Israeli responsibility to Palestinian officials and noted that the Israeli military said it was investigating the blast. That's their own cover for themselves. However, the early versions of the coverage and the prominence it received in a headline, news alert, and social media channels relied too heavily on claims by Hamas and did not make clear that those claims could not immediately be verified. Indeed, what they said was the Palestinians were saying this, Rich, the Palestinian Health Authority, without making clear that was a Hamas-tied organization full of propaganda. And then they go on to say the report left readers with an incorrect impression about what was known and how credible the account was. And they go on to say, we corrected the headline within 2 hours. They did not, however, correct the fact that they're still reporting hundreds dead. We don't know that. That's still coming from Hamas. Or the fact that they used the wrong photo. In showing the devastation, they pulled a different photo of mass devastation, this one right here, which was not of the hospital or the parking lot, also not acknowledged in their attempt to correct the record.
Yeah, so this is, in journalism, we all get it wrong occasionally, but this was a completely avoidable era. Everyone I follow on Twitter who's followed this dispute over the years immediately said, don't believe this. Do not believe this, that this was an Israeli strike. Very often there are rockets that go astray. Just wait, let's wait and see. And very quickly you realize that that's very likely what happened. You had people tracing rockets coming in and doing the maps and whatnot. They figured out very quickly it was a stray Palestinian rocket. And the New York Times, it moved in real time, right? The headline slowly got less certain. But if you're splashing that, as you just showed, across your front page with an image from a different bombing, and you have the Palestinian Health Authority says, but the strong presumption throughout the story is it's true. That's the only reason you'd play it so big, right? Because you find this credible. So this was real horrible malpractice. And I give them credit for, in the editor's note, at least they say we were too credulous about claims from Hamas, right? But that's what they were. And how damning is that, right? They rape women and behead children, and then you're going to believe what they say about a highly sensitive matter like this that they can use for propaganda purposes? How possibly does that make sense, except for the reflex? A lot of these journalists, not all of them, there's some really good ones, but kind of culturally and institutionally tends to be the same as those deep state people in the State Department. It's an anti-Israel reflex, and we saw it out here.
Well, maybe they're turning over a new leaf at the Times with this editor's note, Charles. Maybe they've seen the light on their anti-Israel bent, and they're going to change their reporting now that they've been massively humiliated. Or maybe not, because there's a report out today via the New York Post that the New York Times just hired a new reporter to cover this conflict between Israel and Hamas. His name is Solomon Hijji, Hijjy. And the problem with Solomon is back in 2018 and 2012, he decided to go on social media and post his thoughts about Israel. And let's just say they weren't exactly mild, okay? Here he is in 2012. Quote, "How great you are, Hitler." Okay. It's a problem. I guess he wrote it in Arabic, so we weren't supposed to notice. How great you are. Then there was more praise for Hitler in 2018. And when this pro-Israel media watchdog group noticed that the Times had hired him to report on this conflict. They called them up to say, what are you doing? Because we already called this guy to your attention, and you told us back in 2022, I think it was, or I don't know, not long ago, 2022, that you were looking into his disturbing posts. Now you've rehired him, and you aren't making any apologies whatsoever for what he's done. In fact, the New York Times response to the post was they defended their decision to hire him. We reviewed his problematic social media posts and took a variety of actions to ensure he understood our concerns and could adhere to our standards if he wished to do freelance work for us in the future. So we're against Mr. Hidji praising and aligning with Hitler. If you could keep that in mind on your coverage, would really appreciate it.
I mean, who among us has not repeatedly praised Hitler on our Twitter feed while covering matters of great import to Jewish people? I think the New York Times, as did many in the press, frankly wanted it to be true that Israel had hit that hospital. And that's not because the people who work in those institutions wanted people to die. But, well, maybe the guy with the Hitler fan club did, but the rest probably didn't. But it's because it immediately allowed them to both sides the issue, which is the one thing they say they're against, but they really aren't. If you look at how the attack in Israel was covered and how long it took before the number of dead in Gaza was put on the other side of the screen, with numbers that were rising and rising and rising, all again being put out by Hamas, you will see how quickly this was treated like a sports game. It was initially, 300 dead, 500 dead, 800 dead. The scale of it became apparent, and then it was 1,000 dead at least. But by the end of the day, on the other side of the screen, it was 400 Palestinians, 900 Palestinians, 2,000, 2,500. And that's now how it's been reported across the press. The New York Times does it every day. USA Today had a particularly grotesque front page with a visualized dead. On one side, Israeli dead, on the other side, Palestinian dead, with many more on the Palestinian side, and text beneath it that made it seem as if this was just a sort of spat among lovers. And I don't think that people in the Times wanted death, but I do think that this was sort of made the whole thing easier because it took away the pressure. It made it seem more remote, made it seem more difficult to discern, made it easier for people like Michelle Goldberg to write that we can't know anything anyway. What could we possibly know about what's going on? There's just no way of discerning, so we may as well throw up our hands.
Well, as autumn settles in, the Christmas decorations have already made their grand entrance. But before we allow the shopping stress to take over, take a moment to think about this. Many families have decided to embrace experiences and family gifts instead of the frenzy of individual shopping. Now is the perfect time to order the ultimate family gift, and that is a Michael Phelps swim spa by Master Spas. A Michael Phelps swim spa by Master Spas combines the benefits of a pool and a hot tub. Michael Phelps swim spas come in a variety of sizes to complement almost any yard, even if it's a small one. Installation can take less than a day, and since it's heated, you can use it year-round in any climate. Michael Phelps swim spas are 100% made in the USA by Master Spas. That's the world's largest swim spa manufacturer. Order yours today. Go to masterspas.com, put in the promo code MK to save $1,000 on a Michael Phelps swim spa or $500 on a Master Spas hot tub. Masterspas.com, promo code MK. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.